Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the left owns itself while defending a terrorist. It's even got their own members turning against them. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
You know, when I took this job, they said there'd be no math. There's a lot of math in this job. Mike has to do most of it, but when we're talking about stories, that's the math I gotta do. The stock market likes predictability. The stock market likes for things to be calm. When things are unpredictable, when things are not calm, people go bonkers crazy. I think of the Joker in The Dark Knight, when he's talking to Harvey Dent, lying there in that hospital bed as he's becoming Two-Face. What does he say? He says, okay, this happens here and this happens here. It's predictable. Everybody knew it was going to happen. But one little mayor, everybody loses their minds. That's what's happening right now. Now, it's a little bigger than one little mayor or anything else, but let me explain it to you real simply. I went back to history because you have to study history and you have to know what has happened before. Ronald Reagan, in 1981, 1982, it took a while for the economy to get fixed after the disaster of Jimmy Carter. He inherited an absolute disaster, and it takes time to fix a disaster. As long as you tell people where you're going and why you're doing it, that is predictable. So at the beginning, when Donald Trump says, I want to close the border, and we've got all these problems at the southern border, and we've got these problems at the northern border. We've got illegal immigrants, and we've got drugs, and we've got human trafficking, and you name it, it's coming across the border. I want you guys to close your side of the border. Mexico and Canada each said we're sending troops to the border and said we'll do it, and Trump delayed the tariffs. Trump got what he wanted. Trump won. And the thing was, they crowed about it a lot. So the average American goes, we won! Winning! Yes! Awesome! And the markets reacted accordingly. But then he says, okay, now that I got that win, I want a different win. The trade deals, even the ones that he negotiated, are not as fair as they could be. I want them to be fairer. Let's push the luck. You know what this is like? This is like Maverick in the new Top Gun movie. When he has to get to Mach 10, right? And all he has to do, the threshold is Mach 10, not 10.1, not 10.2. So he got to Mach 10. And right now, what he did was, it's when he's putting on the gas and his buddy Hondo is going, don't do it. Oh, please don't do it. Don't do it. The stock market is saying, don't do it. Us pure red-blooded Americans are going, hell yeah, I'm just not going to look at my 401k for a few days. But the problem is, the normies are looking at their 401ks. And when the normies are looking at their 401ks and the normies are looking at the stock market, they don't follow this stuff as closely as I do, as closely as you do, and they don't understand what's happening. Free trade is good, but we're not at free trade. We don't actually have free trade. We have better trade deals that Trump negotiated, but they're still not great. There are better deals we can get, and Donald Trump is trying to get there, but here's something else. Most people understand that the problem at the border that we want to solve is a lot of the time because Mexico said, we don't want them, so we're just going to be a giant toll booth where you don't even have to pay the toll. Just go on through, don't stay here. We don't want to get stuck with them. Because what happened the first time was, when Donald Trump gets elected, all these illegal immigrants are coming up, and then the U.S. is closed, so where do the illegal immigrants stay? Mexico. Because the South American countries don't want them. So now they're Mexico's problem. So Mexico goes, we don't want this problem. Send them to America, make them America's problem. Joe Biden take all of them, and Joe Biden happily did. What hasn't gotten as much coverage is what's happening at the northern border. And we know all too well what's happening at the northern border because we live here. Granted, we're in Seattle, about 3 hours away from the northern border, or 2 and 15 minutes, depending on the way you drive. I remember one time I did in under 2 hours at 5 a.m. I'm not going to admit how fast I was going in that Camaro I used to have, but I was booking it. Anywho, we know what's going on. We know that Peace Arch, for example, in Blaine, Washington, you can walk right across. Now, the numbers at the northern border are nothing like they are at the southern border for multiple reasons, the number one being geography. The geography of the northern border is it's cold, it's rocky, there's snow, it's harder to come across. But Canada was doing the exact same thing Mexico was. Oh, these illegal immigrants are coming in from the Pacific? Send them to America. Just send them through. We don't want them here. They were doing the exact same thing. Now, the White House was very clear the first time, very, very clear, and said, we want this to stop. And then they send the troops to the border, and everybody says, okay, it's stopped. What's next? And then they decide to throttle up that experimental airplane. Now, the question is, can the airplane hold together? Tariffs as a means of leverage can be very, very effective, as we've already seen. In fact, we got news just before the show went live today that Ontario is starting to back off some of the threats they made to cut all our electricity, and we may have a deal with Canada soon. I have learned never to second-guess Donald Trump because he wins even when I say, okay, I don't know if he's going to win this time, because you can't bat 1,000, but somehow he manages to quite often. This time, what's happening right now is the normie does not understand what's going on, and that's being reflected in the polls. When the normie sees their 401k going downhill, and the reason they voted for Donald Trump was because they want safety and they want a good economy, they say, where's the good economy you promised me? They don't understand how long these things take. And the problem is the White House, which is so good at marketing, has a marketing problem right now. Because I'm hearing the same things out of this White House that I used to hear from Jen Psaki, that I used to hear from Karine Jean-Pierre. Oh, the price of eggs is lower. Oh, the price of gas is lower by a few cents. Okay, the stock market is cratering, wiping out $4 trillion yesterday. I don't even know what the numbers are today. And people freak out. You know when things are a little rocky in your life? Let's say when you were a kid, things are a little rocky and you need mom and dad to tell you everything's going to be okay. Here's how we get through it. You know, sometimes when you're a kid and it seems like the weight of the world is coming down on you and you go, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And mom or dad comes along with that sage advice and goes, here's how we're going to see it through. Here's how we're going to fix the problem. And as a kid, you go, why didn't I even think about that? Because I was too ramped up. Because I was too freaked out. That's what the country's doing right now. The country is that kid. The stock market is that kid. And they need dad to tell us everything's going to be okay. Now, the White House is doing that right now. And the problem is that the stock market right now, a lot of people are going, I don't want to be in this mess. I'm pulling my money out until it stabilizes. Well, the problem is that the stock market has been inflated for so long. When you put a lot of imaginary money that we don't have enough backing for into the economy, you're going to get overinflation in the stock market. That's what Joe Biden and the Democrats were doing, and that's why so much was overvalued. There was a lot of money out there. Part of bringing down inflation, and inflation is going down, part of bringing down inflation is when things are inflated, you have to bring them down. So let's go through the good news and the bad news. Here's what Fox Business said today.
The thing is that the markets aren't taking into account, my view, and I think this is pretty much backed up by everybody I'm speaking to, is that there's there's some goodies coming, right? Lower taxes, less regulation, less fentanyl in this country because we closed the borders, which is going to be good for the economy. Less immigration, which means you don't have illegal immigrants clouding our healthcare system. All this is happening right now, and it's not being factored into the market. So I would just say this. If you're looking at this sort of broadly, this is a puke. It needs, we need to get some of this out of our system.
Exactly. I think at the time, my brother swallowed some poison berries when we were little kids. My brother ate some poison berries. And my parents, this happened on the Sabbath, and you guys know me, we don't drive on the Sabbath. So my mom's got to take him to the doctor, call poison control, go to the pharmacy, get the stuff that makes him puke. When people saw our car tearing out on the Sabbath, they knew something was wrong. When you see a Jewish family's car taken off, an Orthodox Jewish family's car taken off on the Sabbath, you know something's wrong. And he had to puke that stuff up. That is a perfect analogy for what's going on. You got to puke some of this stuff up. At least the people on the right are being honest about what's happening. Look, to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs. But the problem is if you don't show me an omelet, like the Biden administration, they always said, oh, the American people just don't understand. They don't understand. This omelet's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be the best omelet you've ever seen. And there was never an omelet. There was just rotten eggs at the end. Speaking of eggs, let's hear what the press secretary had to say today.
We definitely do share the concerns of the American people when it comes to the price of eggs. However, good news, the average cost of a dozen eggs is actually down since Secretary Rollins and President Trump announced their plan. It's down $1.85. So that's good news on the cost of eggs. And as we know, under the Biden administration, egg prices went up 22%. This is another example of an economic mess that President Trump inherited, and the Secretary of Agriculture and the President are focused on fixing it. Secretary Rollins put out a 4-point plan to address this crisis, and she has been honest and realistic with the American people, as this administration always is. It will take about 3 to 6 months to get the egg supply back to where it should be, but she's focused, and this administration is focused on doing that every day.
Caroline Leavitt is stellar at her job. I wish more people watched the press briefings. I wish every American saw the press briefings because she said it exactly right. Remember Jen Psaki and Karine Jean-Pierre? The Americans just don't understand. We haven't done a good job communicating it. She is literally saying this is going to suck for 3 to 6 months because the Biden administration killed all the chickens. But we presented a plan, and the agricultural world appreciated the plan, is working with the plan, and the price of eggs is going down. Why? Because we bank on futures. We go, there may be a shortage right now, but we see what's coming in the future. You know why the price of gas is going down? Because we may not have the gas right now, but we know that Donald Trump said, drill, baby, drill, and those prices are going to come down. Maybe eggs and gas aren't coming down in Seattle and Washington so quickly, but everywhere else, they're on the downturn, which is good news. And she did lay out that, yes, this is going to take a while, as opposed to, well, your barbecue is 11 cents cheaper than it was last 4th of July. Famously, Jen Psaki said, well, inflation's going to go up a little bit and then it's going to come back down, which they all lied about in the Biden administration. So what else did she have to say today? Because I need good news. She needs to shell out all the good news to calm down the economy, to calm down the stock market, to calm down all the investors, to get people to stop pulling their money. That's what you got to do.
Our country has lost more than 5 million jobs in more than 90,000 factories due to devastating globalization over the last 3 decades alone. North Carolina lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs, including 60% of its furniture manufacturing jobs in the years following NAFTA. And in Michigan, globalist policies destroyed 250,000 jobs, including 40% of the auto industry, which again we know is clawing back because of President Trump's action already. These are harrowing statistics that represent countless towns and families who have been completely destroyed. But the America Last globalist era is ending under President Trump. He will no longer allow our country and our workers, our hard-working American families, to be ripped off.
Now, she's 100% right, and Donald Trump is 100% right, but it's hard for the average American to understand. My Dodge, which I absolutely love, says on it, designed in Detroit. It's not made in Detroit, because a lot of those jobs got shipped to Mexico or got shipped to Canada. I was so proud when Stellantis, which is the owner of Dodge and Chrysler and Jeep and Ram, said, we're going to move back to the U.S. as soon as Donald Trump gets elected. We're going to start making cars in the U.S. again. I was so proud that Renton, Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler, Ram is a sponsor of this show. Because those are my guys. They were the first ones. Then Honda follows suit. Then other car companies follow suit. Tesla today. That whole show with Elon Musk today, that was about this car is made in America. We're going to increase production. We're going to need more workers. And like we were discussing yesterday with all the people attacking Cybertrucks, there's no such thing as bad PR. So while these lunatics are attacking Cybertrucks, what happens? A bunch of people go, I want a Cybertruck. And that's they're seeing the demand. Donald Trump led by example where he said, I'm buying a Cybertruck. Joe Biden said, here, let me go drive this truck, and that Ford is now ending the production of that. That's how bad Joe Biden was for business. They're ending the production. They're scaling back the production on the Ford Lightning because that thing's such a piece of garbage. So, what about Canada? Explain to me the tariffs like I'm a kid. Do it, Caroline Levitt.
Canada has been ripping off the United States of America and hardworking Americans for decades. If you look at the rates of tariffs across the board that Canadians have been imposing on the American people and our workers here, it is egregious. In fact, I have a handy-dandy chart here that shows not just Canada, but the rate of tariffs across the board. If you look at Canada, since you brought it up, American cheese and butter, nearly 300% tariff. You look at India, 150% tariff on American alcohol. You think that's helping Kentucky bourbon be exported into India? I don't think so. 100% tariff on agricultural products from India. Look at Japan, tariffing rice, 700%. President Trump believes in reciprocity, and it is about dang time that we have a president who actually looks out for the interests of American businesses and workers. And all he's asking for at the end of the day are fair and balanced trade practices, and unfortunately, Canada has not been treating us very fairly at all over the past several decades.
That was a very succinct explanation with charts, with graphs, with everything. Except, I still look at my 401k. Except, I still look at what groceries cost. And unfortunately, the average American is not watching the White House press briefings. This is what needs to be hammered in every single talking head segment. But the problem is, you're sitting here listening, Ari, I understand everything. Ari, I love President Trump. Ari, I want free trade. Ari, I want everything to be good. But at the same time, I got to send my kids to college. And you know what? Today, I had to pull money out of my kid's mutual fund account, not to yank it out of the stock market, because I play the long game, but because I had to give a deposit for his program next year. And then I said to myself, I wasn't going to look at any of this stuff. I'm not going to look at any of it. And then I had to look at it. I am very well aware of what's happening at the stock market. I'm just like you. I get it. Believe me, I get it. For me telling you to hold tight, especially when you need that money, they're empty words. You're thinking to yourself, oh, Ari Hoffman, he's a radio host. He makes a ton of money. First of all, I don't. But second of all, my friends, I get what you're going through. The thing is here, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Why? Here's what happened with Canada today. This is your president.
Already Canada, and I respect very much. As you know, there's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And it would have been a very bad thing if he did. And he's not going to do that, so I respect that. But we were just informed that he's not going to do that.
So, are things calming down or are they ratcheting up? Right now, you're at a different place. Canada doesn't want the tariffs. Trump doesn't want the tariffs. They want free trade. Sometimes you got to call a bluff. So did Canada just cave? And does that mean all of a sudden you're going to hear an announcement tomorrow or in the next day or in the next day, here's the new trade deal we're going to work out with Canada. If you get that, everything goes back to normal and everybody's happy. If you don't get that, you got a problem. Because as James Carville says, it's the economy, stupid. And I can tell you all this stuff. I can explain this to all of you. You can watch Fox Business. You can watch all the stations and try and read the tea leaves of the stock market. But unless things go back to normal and start going on the rise, people are going to say, I voted for Donald Trump to get this great economy. Where's my golden age of America? The issue right now is a marketing one. The issue right now is an educational one. And the issue right now is a lot of people don't see that light at the end of the tunnel. As I said at the beginning of this segment, the stock market does not like uncertainty. They want to feel those tariffs coming down. They want to feel the trade. They want everything to go back to normal. Even if that normal means the trade is the new normal. That's what it is. They want everything to go back to normal. I want to know if this has shaken your confidence in Donald Trump, because it hasn't shaken mine. But I know there's a lot of scared people out there when they watch this happening to the economy. So if it's shaking your confidence or you have some questions, you give us a call. I cannot provide financial advice legally due to FCC regulations, but I want to know what you think about all this. You think I'm right, or you think I'm just spinning for the Trump administration, which I know the haters are going to say when they call. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, the democracy vouchers are back in Seattle. You probably got them in your mailbox. Does that mean a whole new round of scams is about to start? You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, we have an exclusive screening of Warfare coming up this Thursday at 7 p.m. at South Center with Big Mike and Young Zach. And over half the tickets are already gone. And you're seeing it a month before the general public. So, if you want the tickets to see this movie that I am so bummed out it's Jewish Halloween Purim that day that I really want to go see because now I got to wait a month to see it, but you get to hang out with Young Zach and Big Mike. And by the way, seeing a movie with Big Mike is an experience, and we will tell you about what happened last night when we went to see Novocaine next week during The Real Deal. But you want to go just for the experience. You get 2 shows for this, my friends. You get the show of seeing the movie Warfare, which is this awesome war movie about Navy SEALs in Iraq, and you get the show of Big Mike at the movies. And if you have not experienced that yet, you haven't seen Shakespeare in its original Klingon. You haven't seen Shakespeare the way it's meant to be done. So head on over to KVI.com right now and register for the free tickets. They're going fast. We've gotten rid of half of them right now. First come, first serve basis. Go to KVI.com right now to get the tickets to this exclusive screening of Warfare before they are gone forever. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Mark in Ellensburg. Mark, what's going on?
Hi, Ari. People that are complaining that Trump has not kept his word about lowering fuel prices, for instance, immediately are not using their heads. They're being stupid. If you know anything about oil, the way they go find oil is they take a special truck that's out. It puts sound waves down through the ground, and they do that in several areas, and that gives them a rough guess on where maybe the best place to drill is.
It's like sonar.
The next thing,
Yeah.
Yes, it's a sonar type thing. The next thing they do then is get the drilling rig in and get it set up and get the crew in, and then they start drilling. And that takes sometimes months to get down to where you need to be. And then once you find the oil, then you have to put the pumping system in. We've all seen those, like bobbing type machines.
Right, the machines we've all seen in the movies or the TV show, like Landmen. Right.
Yeah, yes, they're pumping machines. They pump the oil out. So a year later, the oil is coming out of the ground.
Exactly right, Mark, which is why we do this based on future production. That's what it is, not based on what we got right now. And let's not forget one other thing, Mark, is that we also drained the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Joe Biden did that to try and solve gas prices. We still have to refill that sucker also. This is all tied together. Excellent point, Mark. Really do appreciate it. You want to be part of the show? You want to weigh in the conversation? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Looks like everybody wants to talk about the market today, so we go back to Mark in Graham. Another Mark on the KVI studio line. Mark, what's up?
Not much, but I was just thinking I would like to see the stock market stop a little bit or slow down going down. But at the end of this month, I get my dividends. And at the end of 3 months from now, I'll get another set of dividends. And then it can start going up because that's about the time I expect it to start doing it after things start settling down. And all those people that got out, they're missing out.
Exactly.
They're not going to be able to buy it as low as I did. Because the last time when Trump was in, my mix of products went up 60% in 4 years.
Exactly.
And the average stock market going back since 1910 has been an average of 7% growth a year. So
now, Mark,
we're all good.
Just a disclaimer. Yeah. Mark and I cannot give you financial advice due to FCC regulations. But
well, I'm not.
No. You're fine, Mark. You're fine, Mark. You're fine. That's my disclaimer. That's my disclaimer for the swamp that hasn't been drained yet, so I don't lose my radio show. Okay. But yes,
okay,
I have a similar strategy to Mark, where I just hold. I'm like Mel Gibson in Braveheart. Mark, great call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Jay in Idaho. Other Jay in Idaho. What's up, Jay?
Hey, Ari, I love the two marks. That's just great. So I would have take it a different angle, talking to Big Mike here. I'm liking the leadership. Is that, I know we're all suffering and we're all looking at the portfolio or not and going, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But what I like is the leadership coming from President Trump and a lot of other Republicans and the White House, is that they're telling us that there's going to be a little pain. They're telling us we got to get through this. They're decoupling the economy from taxpayer dollars that have been propelling the economy for the last 4 years or so. And I'm loving that he is being a leader. He's established a vision. He's telling us to hang tough, steady as she goes. Don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes. And things are going to get way better. So, the tariff kerfuffle and all that's going on, and then getting the tax cuts through or making them permanent and the additional ones, things are going to be better down the road. But there's going to be a little pain. But his leadership is something that we have missed for a long time in this country in the White House.
I agree. And there's something else that I really like. I like that he's there taking the questions. I don't know if you saw today, but his former attorney, Huma, I forget what her name is. She gave a tour of Joe Biden's set for his fake Oval Office today. If you haven't watched it on social media, you got to go watch it because it looks like something out of a TV show where they were trying to scam you. It looks like The Wizard of Oz. It looks like The Truman Show. It looks like any of these things. And you knew that whoever was pulling the strings was putting Joe Biden up there as a prop. And you know that this is Donald Trump's plan. He's behind it. He's seeking out advice. I completely agree with you, Jay. Completely agree with you. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, you would think the Democrats would be hitting on the economy. Instead, what are they doing? Defending a non-U.S. citizen who has terrorist ties. Yes, they are actually doing that right now. We'll explain what's going on when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. My phone lines are lit up like a Christmas tree. Because as always, like James Carville says, it's the economy, stupid, and people want to talk about what's going on with the economy and Donald Trump and tariffs and trade, and we will get to your phone calls. But you would think that the Democrats would use this as an opportunity to bang on Republicans about the economy, but they missed that opportunity. Instead, what are they doing? They're defending a non-U.S. citizen who has ties to terrorist organizations who organized riots to target Jewish students. Okay, something I learned from running for office, political consultants overall don't know what the hell they're talking about. They just want to collect their big fat checks and do whatever it is they do. I see political consultants living better than the people they're representing who are running for office. So here's the thing, my friends. If I was a political consultant for the Democrats and I actually wanted them to win, I would say, don't say a damn word about anything else except the economy. Donald Trump has put you on the wrong side of every single 80-20 issue. 80% of the U.S. population does not want men in girls' sports. 80% of the U.S. population does not want trans surgeries done on minors. 80% of the U.S. population wants a sealed border. 80% of the U.S. population wants a strong military and wants to be safe. And so what do? They say, oh, that's good. We're going to support a terrorist. So the Senate Judiciary Democrats, this is their official account, and a lot of other Democrats on social media, they wrote, free Mahmoud Khalil. This is the guy from Colombia. Free him? What about all the hostages that are down in the tunnels in Gaza, including Idan Alexander, who's an American? John Fetterman, who is not a Republican, John Fetterman, replied to his own party saying, free all the hostages who have been tortured, starved, raped, beaten, and still in tunnels in Gaza by Hamas since October 7, 2023. He's 100% right. The Democrats, if they want an angle of attack, they have one. Go after the economy. Go after Trump on the economy. That's what you should be doing. Instead, they're doing dumb things like this. Fine by me. Fine by me. They'll keep losing. And I love how crystal clear the White House is on this with no ambiguity.
And so I don't have a readout on how many arrests will come, but I do know that DHS is actively working on it. And I also know that Columbia University has been given the names of other individuals who have engaged in pro-Hamas activity, and they are refusing to help DHS identify those individuals on campus. And as the president said very strongly in his statement yesterday, he is not going to tolerate that. And we expect all America's colleges and universities to comply with this administration's policy.
Boom. Now, I saw one of the dumbest op-eds of my life in the Seattle Times today. It was by a woman named Michelle Goldberg, whose work I'm not familiar with. Apparently, she's a syndicated New York Times columnist who they picked up off the wire service and they put in the Seattle Times, which shows you what the editorial board at the Seattle Times is thinking. She was comparing the arrest of a guy with terrorist ties who's a non-U.S. citizen who supports a terrorist organization who led riots against American students on an American university campus to the Red Scare. I scanned this stupid article. It was so terrible. It was so bad. I'm not even giving you the links to it. But that should show you the bias the Seattle Times has in this mess. Caroline Levitt, crystal clear.
Does the administration believe that it needs to charge a green card holder with a crime to be eligible for deportation?
Well, in fact, Secretary Rubio reserves the right to revoke the visa of Mahmoud Khalil, and I'm glad you brought this up. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, the Secretary of State has the right to revoke a green card or a visa for individuals who serve or are adversarial to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States of America. And Mahmoud Khalil was an individual who was given the privilege of coming to this country to study at one of our nation's finest universities and colleges. And he took advantage of that opportunity, of that privilege, by siding with terrorists, Hamas terrorists who have killed innocent men, women, and children. This is an individual who organized group protests that not only disrupted college campus classes and harassed Jewish American students and made them feel unsafe on their own college campus, but also distributed pro-Hamas propaganda, flyers with the logo of Hamas. That is what the behavior and activity that this individual engaged in. And I have those flyers on my desk. They were provided to me by the Department of Homeland Security. I thought about bringing them into this briefing room to share with all of you, but I didn't think it was worth the dignity of this room to bring that pro-Hamas propaganda. But that's what this individual distributed on the campus of Columbia University, and this administration is not going to tolerate individuals having the privilege of studying in our country and then siding with pro-terrorist organizations that have killed Americans.
Boom. And by the way, I know what material she's referring to because we covered it a year ago. We have copies of that. In fact, if you send me an email, ari@kvi.com, that's ari@kvi.com, after the show tonight, I will send you a link to that article, and you can see the material for itself and where it came from. The Democrats should be hammering on the economy. I'm giving you guys free advice here. You know how much your consultants are charging you? Instead, they're supporting the non-U.S. citizen who's supporting terrorist organizations. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Pat in Port Orchard. Pat, what's going on?
Hi, Ari. Love your show. I just heard one of your last caller's comments about, he alluded to it maybe takes 1 year to get the process to start drilling and pulling oil out. I'm a local Seattle boy, had 4 gas stations in the area from 75 to 95, went through the 2 what they called oil shortages. But however, a couple of things are real important about this is that the Biden administration canceled all the permits, closed all the drilling places. So those things daylight at particular times. So that in likelihood, a lot of those permits have to be restarted. And the permitting process is lengthy, possibly, in reviews and everything, a year or two in the permitting process. And then after that's approved, then you go ahead and start your drilling. Then you bring in the drillers. Well, after you get done with the drillers, who have to get a permit, then you got to get in the pipers. The pipers are a separate outfit that come in, and afterwards, I know this because my son ran the machines that put the pipes in up in the North Fields, North Dakota. But anyway, and after you get that, then you get the pumping guys in. So after you've done all of those things that have been, eliminated by the Biden administration, you could be, more likely to 3 years. I would say would be probably the earliest you're going to bring any oil. And then after it's pumped, then it needs to go to a refinery. It has to either be piped to the refinery and then piped. After it's piped to the refinery, it's either piped or it's shipped by barge and or shipped to the distribution points. There used to be 7 pads in the U.S. where they would divvy it up.
Right.
And I don't know how many pads there are anymore.
You're describing, hang on a second here, Pat. You're describing a ton of infrastructure. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
and what people don't realize is it's like a massive 100 train car locomotive that you got to get going again. And people don't realize there's a reason there's 3 or 4 engines at the front of those things when you see them heading past CenturyLink or Lumenfield, whatever they're calling it these days, because it takes a while to get going. You're 100% right. And whether it's 1 year, whether it's 3 years, it takes time. However, the markets respond when they know it's on the horizon. What I'm concerned about is that some companies are going to say, well, if it takes 1 year, or it takes 2 years, or it takes 10 years, they're going to say, is this worth it if the next president comes along and cancels all of it? Well, that's the problem, Pat.
That's one of where I was going to go. The other thing is we all know he canceled the one pipeline. That would have changed everything.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how much paid for that. In Washington State here, we had a 50-cent a gallon tax, and it seems like the people of Washington don't realize that, and they also don't realize where the money is going and or how it's benefiting any of us, and I don't see that it is.
I'll tell you, Pat, it's not. Last week we did an analysis. 90% of that money is going to absolute garbage that has nothing to do with the climate whatsoever. I wish I could go through this all day long, but I'll leave you with this thought. I just got back from Florida, and in Florida, gas was half the price it is here. Half the price. How much of that is taxes, my friend? Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, more of your phone calls plus what the Washington government is wasting your tax money on. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement, a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement, and 2 tickets to Cyndi Lauper, my friends. Yet another reason I always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from our friend Bennett in Bellevue. Bennett, what's going on? Bennett, are you there?
Oh, boy. Yes, calling you today, not as a protester, but as a holder of stocks, or at least what's left of them until your guy got his hands on them.
Yes. What's the problem today, Bennett? I do love the way you introduce yourself, though. That's great.
Well, my plan was going to be when they announced that Trump was elected, I was thinking, well, okay, I'm not happy about that for a bunch of reasons, but at least he's going to look out for his rich buddies that hold stocks. And while I'm not as rich as his friends, rising tide and everything, it's going to make my stocks go up, and I can take the money and donate it to Democrats. But he outsmarted me again.
I love that you can approach this with a sense of humor, Bennett. I really, really do. Look, Bennett, let me just ask you this. And once again, Bennett and I cannot give you stock advice. What you are listening to right now is not stock advice. It is 2 guys talking about their specific. You want money advice, you listen to Dale Walmsley after my show. You go talk to him. But right now, Bennett, what's your method of investment? What's your plan? What do you usually do? I'm a hold kind of guy. What do you do?
Well, what I've been listening to economists talking on Twitter about, like the news about Trump saying, well, there's going to be temporary pain, but then it will bounce back. And a lot of them saying something similar to what you just said to the other caller, which is that markets are forward thinking. So if the conventional wisdom of the informed people who track this stuff for a living, if they thought that there will be temporary pain, but then the companies will all bounce back, that would be reflected in the prices now. And because it's not, that suggests that line of thinking is probably wrong. Because you were talking about the normies panicking and selling stocks, and it's just the underinformed people doing it. But the thing is, if the underinformed people are selling stocks, but the informed people know that it'll bounce back, they will just buy up the stocks at a steal from the normies panicking and selling it. And the fact that they're not doing that suggests that.
Well, hang on a second.
The informed people.
That's what I'm doing today. That's what you should be doing today. Also, I'm actually very curious what the overnight trading does. When you'll start seeing buying. And by the way, you make some very valid points, Bennett. When you normally see the buying in after hours trading, when you start seeing that, that's when they think the bottom is. I think the problem is right now they're holding their money because they don't know where the bottom is. So Bennett, here's what we're going to do. 6 months from now, market, you can call anytime you want, but 6 months from now, I want you to give me a call back, and we're going to see who was right and who was wrong. Does that work for you?
About stocks bouncing back?
Yeah.
Well, I can't really lose, right? Because if they back up, then I'm back up, and if I'm tanked, well, at least I can call and make fun of Ari Hoffman. But
I love that you and I have gotten to this place in our relationship, my friend. This is a good place to be, and I wish everybody who disagreed on politics could have conversations like this. Bennett, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. Appreciate you being willing to engage in the conversation. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, the insanity behind those democracy vouchers and the other craziness going on in the Washington legislature. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, my friends, the Los Angeles mayor is busted deleting her text messages. Sound familiar, Seattleites? But before we get to any of that, yesterday, I got a press release. This happens all the time. I don't know how I get on some of these lists, but I got a press release from the people who are pushing democracy vouchers. You may have gotten these things in the mail if you live in Seattle. I had a few people reach out and say, who should we give these to? I go, I don't know because I don't know everyone who's running yet. It's a little early to be sending out this stupidity. Basically, a few years ago, the idiots in Seattle didn't show up for an election, and the lunatics in Seattle decided to pass a bill or vote for an initiative, whatever it was, where you get taxed, and then you get a little certificate in the mail that you get to donate to a candidate. Now, the theory behind it was, this gives candidates a chance. Now they get a chance. And now when they can't fundraise, they can use that money and they can use that taxpayer money and run a campaign. This thing was ripe for fraud from day one. Now, before I get to the fraud and how we proved it to my satisfaction, we're still going to call it alleged for now, but to my satisfaction, it is proven. This is a story I saw from Como News yesterday. Democracy vouchers were approved by Seattle voters back in 2015, but time is running out on the first in the nation program. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell announced a proposal Monday to renew the democracy voucher program for 10 years, insisting it's made the political process more inclusive. I find this entertaining. Do you know why? The last mayoral race is the one that proved to my satisfaction that this whole thing is a massive grift, because the people who took in the most democracy vouchers didn't get anywhere near the general election. In fact, there's a lot of questionable spending and a lot of money going to consultants. If that much money is going to consultants, either the consultant has a really nice boat, either they are giving it back to you in some fashion, or they're spending it on the campaign, or they're just ripping you off. You're talking about tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money. Shall we revisit the issue? I am looking at an article that a really brilliant guy named Ari Hoffman wrote in August 8th of 2021. So this was the first 6 months of the Ari Hoffman Show. That's what we're looking at here. Andrew Grant Houston, a candidate for Seattle mayor and former Seattle City Council staffer, has managed to get more people to give him money through Seattle's democracy voucher program than actually vote for him, in the process raising red flags. Since the start of the campaign, Houston was unlikely to advance to the general election. Though many candidates run with no chance of winning, few do so while bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer funds. In 2015, Seattle voters approved a property tax of $3 million to fund the democracy voucher program for 10 years. The Democracy Voucher Program gives each Seattle voter $100 in $25 vouchers to give out to donate to the campaign of their choice. Houston's campaign gathered more vouchers by far than any other campaign. Almost 14,000 vouchers worth $346,325. Yet he only managed to finish in sixth place with only 4,535 votes. Anybody want to do the math on how much money he spent per vote of your tax money? That's 2.62% of the total vote based on the latest totals. He had more than 5,000 donors, but is unlikely to pull in as many votes as donors. Houston's campaign doesn't seem to have spent much of that money on trying to get elected. Recipients receipts for the campaign so far show a lot of meals and purchases for non-campaign related items like headphones. Those headphones better be dipped in gold, by the way. Those better be gold, not plated, actual gold headphones. In fact, you know what they should be? They should also turn into that pillow you wear around your neck when you're on airplanes. In fact, you know what they should do? It should create a cocoon around you for sleeping on the airplane that you don't need to buy a first-class ticket. You just go down in the cargo bay and you're comfy and snug. My God. Over $100,000 of the money went to Prism Washington, a.k.a. Prism West, a consulting firm with a history of representing and promoting activist socialist candidates, such as socialist Seattle City Council member Tammy Morales, who advocated for riots during last summer's unrest. Remember, I wrote this article in 2021. Houston's campaign focused on door-to-door canvassing to harvest the vouchers and employed an unusually large number of staffers, especially given the large amount of spending on consultants. The staffers were also unionized. Well, of course, if you can give them whatever they want, who cares if they unionize? Houston's campaign spending disclosures showed only roughly $70,000 spent on online advertising, mailers, and other traditional voter outreach. No money was spent on TV or other media. Former Seattle City Council President Bruce Harrell and current Council President Lorena Gonzalez, who earned the top 2 spots to advance to the November general election, did not pay anything close to that for their consultants. To put things in perspective, Gonzalez raised $276,475 in voucher funds, spent more than $82,000 on TV, almost $60,000 on polling, and approximately $50,000 on direct mailers. Her consulting costs were a mere $24,000. Harrell, who was on track to finish first at the time in the primary, took in only $157,725 in voucher funds. Based on the current voter totals, Houston spent $104.66 of voucher money per vote. Gonzalez spent $7.05. Harrell spent just $3.22. And it wasn't just the mayor's race, by the way. We did the analysis of multiple races, and the vouchers, the democracy vouchers, were basically a bust, where you look at this thing and you go, this guy was very effective at bringing in the money, but didn't help him win in the polls. What are the rules of running for office? You need money to be a viable candidate, or people know you can't buy TV advertising. You can't buy social media advertising. You can't do what you got to do to win a race. You can't send out mailers. You can't do any of that kind of stuff. Can't buy endorsements. Sorry, did I say that? Yeah. Sorry. Didn't mean to say that under my breath. Oh, that was bad news there. This thing is a scam. I am convinced this thing is a scam, and they want to renew it. So, back to my original opening with this whole discussion. Why am I bringing this up? I get this press release from the democracy voucher people, and they want to know if I would have them on the show to discuss renewing the democracy voucher program. So I do what I do. I said, I'd love to. Can you come on the show and explain what you have done to address potential fraud, like with Alan Grant Houston, where he got all this money and didn't get above 6th? Mike, would you like to know the response I got from them? Oh, you mean you don't want to answer that question? You know what I think? This is like Moneyball. I think now people like Bruce Harrell have figured out, whoa. If this guy can bring in $346,000 and come in 6th, I got way more of an infrastructure behind me. I can bring in a lot more than that. This program isn't going anywhere because they have figured out a new grift to pay for their own campaigns, to get money for their own campaigns, and they're using your tax dollars to do it. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up, man?
Hey, I'm glad you guys brought this up regarding these vouchers. I think this is right for scams and spam. This is one reason why my cell phone is a spam-free phone and a scam-free phone. So
you got to tell me your secret, Leonard, because hang on, I didn't even tell Mike this story yet. You know, Mike and I kibitz when we're not on air, right? So last night I got an anonymous text from a 360 number. Ready for this, Mike? Here's what it says. It's not nice to block people, you whiny little K-word. And I go, whoa. One, how'd you get my cell phone number? And 2, you're calling me anti-Semitic slurs when you're texting me? And 3, does this mean I blocked you on Twitter or something? Because I don't do that very often. There were a couple bots I blocked yesterday. I'm kind of curious where this thing is coming from. Leonard, you got to tell me your secret, man. How do you not get spam on your phone?
I just tell these people, hey, if you call me on my phone to scam me, I will hang up. And if you call me from a spoofed number, I will block you and delete you.
Well, wait a second. I do that too. I want to know how not to get the call. All right. Leonard, while I've been on the show today, my phone has rung 4 times. One number I recognize, the other one says spam risk. How do you not get those calls, Leonard? Give me the secret to life.
Well, The reason why I not get those is because every time I get a spam phone call, I block it and delete it. And if they
I think we all do that, Leonard. I'd just rather not get the calls, but I appreciate the insight. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We won't think that you're spam, my friends. Give us a call or a text right now. So, House Bill 1531. This is a bill which basically is in response to what Jay Inslee and the public health people did with mask mandates and with vaccine mandates. It passed along party lines over the weekend. And this thing, which is pushed by Representative Dan Bronowski, the bill's main sponsor, according to My Northwest, explained the rationale for the legislation. I intend to preserve the ability for public health officials to go out and do the work that they need to do to keep us safe. Currently, over the past couple of weeks, most recently, public health officials in our state are being hampered from their ability to do the work they want to do. The supporters emphasize the need for a science-driven approach to disease prevention, citing the rise of dangerous communicable diseases like syphilis, tuberculosis, and gonorrhea. Okay, let's just break this down for a second. Don't use big words you don't understand like science. Do you remember follow the science? Basically what this is to be able to lock you down harder next time they deem they want to and force you to get the vax, the untested vaccine. That's what this nonsense is about. Also, syphilis, tuberculosis, gonorrhea, are those things we find in homeless encampments? Could that be why they're on the rise? Because you don't find those in normal society, my friends. This isn't the 1800s on Ellis Island or anything like that. Why are we getting this stuff? Lawmakers on the other side of the aisle voiced strong concerns during the debate, raising the vagueness of the bill's language, particularly around the term best available science. Representative Suzanne Schmidt argued the bill's reliance on terms like evidence-based and best available science was problematic. She said, I don't know what those terms mean. They could mean anything. They could mean science from today or science from 50 years ago. There's no definition in the bill. Others expressed frustration about the legacy of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on trust in public health institutions. Representative Matt Marshall, I got to remember to invite him on the show. I got a press release from him today, too, about this. I got to reach out to him and have him back on the show. Raised concerns about the bill's approach to public health data, citing past mistakes like the 6-foot distancing rule during the pandemic. Marshall asked, what happens when the science is wrong? It's important that we use peer-reviewed science moving forward. My man right there. Is it so much to ask for peer-reviewed science? And by the way, science is always evolving. Science is always changing. But the problem was nobody wanted to admit they were wrong at all. Do you remember this insanity? I keep drilling down on this. I remember the time I went down to Seward Park, and there's a person standing there during COVID with a giant 6-foot yardstick, telling people to separate and save lives, social distance and save lives, while wearing a mask outside. They weren't wearing goggles, but we've seen that insanity also. I do love this one. So I'm on a plane flying back this weekend. This was great. And I'm sitting next to a family which most definitely does not listen to my show. Shall we just say that? There's 2 of them next to me, and there's 2 of them in front of me. All of them get on the plane with the masks. They all get on the plane with the masks. And then what do? They get their food, which they've brought from a fast food joint in the airport. You're so concerned about health, you shouldn't be eating the giant hamburger and French fries dipped in all the grease, and they pulled off their masks to eat the food. I kind of may have been a jerk a little bit and started hacking a little bit when the masks came off just to see if they would put them back on. Yeah, I don't know. I fell asleep, and I was probably snoring really loudly. That sucks for them. But at the same time, you ever notice those people who are driving alone in the car wearing masks? They are the worst drivers on the road. Always the worst drivers on the road. It annoys the you-know-what out of me. You know the thing I liked more was the doctors who were telling us all to be healthy and wear the masks because of respiratory problems, and then they're smoking outside the hospital. That was always great. Seeing the ones holding the mask in the hand and holding a cigarette in the other one or pulling the mask down. Oh, the insanity. That was the science we were following, by the way, my friends. The science of the Rona can't get you before 11 p.m., but if you're in a bar after 11 p.m., you're going to die. Representative Mary Dye Added a personal perspective, recalling her experience growing up with a public health nursery in her community. Unfortunately, COVID broke us, and there's no trust in that institution anymore, Di said, referencing the challenges public health officials have faced in rebuilding credibility after the pandemic. Do you guys remember the early days of the pandemic? I want to know the crazy stuff you did. Let me tell you the crazy stuff I did for frame of reference. For me, I thought to myself, all right, this is my chance. I love The Walking Dead. Great show. We're going to be decked out like that. So I told my wife, sweetie, get in the car. They're shutting everything down. We're going to go get gas for all the cars. We're going to gas up all the cars so we have them ready to go. I'm going to take all my gas cans. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive out and get all the ammo I need. Because if I have ammo, I can always get toilet paper. That's what I thought. Also, don't forget, I own an event rental company. So I went and got a bounce house for the kids, and I got some other fun stuff. Do you remember that first week when everybody was treating it like a kind of scary adventure? You know what I built in my garage? I was so proud of myself. Me and my kids, we built the Back to the Future ride. So how did we do this? The DVD of Back to the Future Trilogy has the old footage from the ride they used to have at Universal. I kept the car in the garage. I parked it the opposite direction so it's facing out the garage door. And I projected the ride on the garage door. And I took the massive speakers in my house and I wired them up. Plus, since I'm a major dork, I have a USB charging thing that looks like the flux capacitor, and I turned that sucker on. I also figured out the time to time the windows so I could spray water at the kids when they're supposed to be water slash. I went all out for this sucker. Mike, there's video on YouTube of my personal account, not the one that was suspended. I still have the video of this. We went all out for this. But then you remember after week 1, week 2, you're like, this is crazy. I was talking to some friends this weekend, and I realized the moment I cracked. Here's the moment I cracked. I want to know the craziest thing you did during COVID, and I want to know the moment you cracked. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. You know the moment I cracked? Let me explain something to you about the bounce house industry. We get inspected once a year to see if the things inflate and deflate. That's it. So I had to inflate and deflate every year 100 bounce houses so the inspector could come out and go, yep. Now, for those of you not in the bounce house or event rental industry, what do you know about bounce houses? You know they blow away. What would make more sense is inspectors to come out for surprise inspections at some address and make sure you secured them to the ground appropriately, that you're using the correct wires appropriately. That would make more sense, and I have no problem with that, actually. It would be, hey, time for your surprise inspection. Where are your gigs today? We're going to go out and site that. That would make sense. But that's not what they do. Instead, you just have to inflate them and deflate them. And if they don't inflate, you can't rent them out, my friends. So what happens? Labor and Industries and I are talking, and I say, hey, everything's shut down. Can I get an extension on my renewal? Because we used to do a big event, a big festival where kids would come out and we'd raise money and we'd blow up all the bounce houses at the same time. And they said, no, we can't give you an extension. And I said, well, then send out the inspectors. And they said, we can't. It's COVID. I said, then I'll see you in court. Well, what do you know? Guess what they sent out? The inspectors. So me and my guys are working shoulder to shoulder, rolling these things up, rolling them out, tearing them down. And it's Labor and Industries people that are out there. And not once did they cite us for COVID violations. And I said, this is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. This is all colossal BS. And that's immediately when I turned. Was anybody following the science? Anybody at all? Like the bars, oh, you have to walk to the table wearing the mask, but when you're sitting at the table, then you're not spreading air around. This was all stupid. This was all beyond stupid. The Democrats want to extend their powers. Remember Bob Ferguson was talking about limiting his emergency powers? He won't need them anymore because now it's going to be mandated by this stupidity. The Democrats want money and power. They miss the good old days of 2020. I don't think any common sense person misses the good old days of 2020, my friends. Not at all. But this is the insanity they're doing in Olympia. Instead of making your life cheaper, instead of making your life safer, instead of making things better for you in Olympia, they're preparing for the next pandemic to lock you down, or the next excuse to lock you down. Speaking of things that happened in 2020, my friends, when we come back, it seems like history is repeating itself. We have the mayor of Los Angeles found to have deleted her text messages during a disaster. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Okay, tell me if this sounds familiar, Seattle people, greater Seattle people, that now Los Angelenos are accusing their mayor, Karen Bass, of deleting text messages around the time of the Los Angeles fires. Why wouldn't she? You can get away with that stuff if you're a Democrat, right? Right? Hang on a second. Let me just, you know what? I think I haven't done this in a while. Hang on a second. I want to fire up the old DeLorean here. Let's get this sucker cooking. Here we go. That's right. Before there were Cybertrucks, there were DeLoreans. Not as big tires, though. All right. Let's go back in time to the year 2023. And Ari Hoffman, a very brilliant guy, wrote an article for the Post-Millennial. Despite having deleted tens of thousands of text messages during the riots in deadly Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone that rocked Seattle during the Summer of Love in 2020, no charges will be filed against former Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin, former Police Chief Carmen Best, Fire Chief Harold Scoggins, and other high-level officials, King County prosecutors announced on Tuesday. Prosecuting attorney Lisa Mannion and Dan Clark of the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office wrote to the King County Sheriff's Office in documents provided to the Post-Millennial based on your investigation and our legal analysis of the facts that you presented. We conclude there is no legal basis to file criminal charges in this case. Do you remember their excuses for those text messages? I dropped it in water. Oh, I also dropped mine in water. Oh, I turned off the auto-delete function. You all sound like Austin Powers. Oh, I fell over. Oh, I fell over again. Oh, the turbulence. Why do I keep falling over? Give me a break. In a report from the King County Sheriff's Office Criminal Intelligence Unit, the department wrote in an executive summary after reviewing over 5,720 pages of sworn testimony, digital evidence, expert witnesses' reports, and contemporaneous communications, I have found no evidence of a criminal conspiracy to destroy public records contained in any city cell phones, and no evidence that unauthorized access from outside the city had caused the loss of data. I don't think it was unauthorized access. I think they did it. Oh, and by the way, they were ordered to pay, the city was ordered to pay a settlement to the Seattle Times, who's one of the outlets who exposed this. By the way, I would have liked some of that money, too. I reported on the same thing at the same time. How come the Seattle? Oh, right, they're the ones that filed the lawsuit. I don't want to start suing people. So, of course, Karen Bass thinks she can get away with this. So, my friends, I'm going to tell you what I did after this, and I was really sad this story didn't get as much traction as I had hoped. You know what I did when I didn't get the text messages from Seattle? I said, you know what? There's no way they weren't talking to the governor at the same time. And we filed a public disclosure request for the governor's office for communication from the same time. And you know what we got back? Next to nothing. Again. Oh, yeah, just magically everybody's cell phone went bad? Mike, let me ask you a real question. I don't want to jinx anything here, but let me ask you a real question. When is the last time your cell phone went horribly wrong or bad that you needed a new one? Has that ever happened, or you just take the upgrades when they come?
No, all of my cell phone replacements have all been self-inflicted. Like, I went through a phase, actually, I'm in that phase, what am I talking about, where I keep my cell phone in my back pocket. Mm-hmm. And there was a time where my phone was less hardy, or I had a less hardy case. And I remember this. I went to the T-Mobile store, and I'm like, well, my phone keeps turning off intermittently. It's not working. And she's like, let me see it. I hand it to her. She sets it on the table and then puts her finger on it. It starts rocking like a teeter-totter. And she's like, you keep this in your back pocket, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, there's your problem. You need a new phone.
Exactly. So I had different, but my thing used to be I didn't get a case. I'm like, I don't need those stupid cases. Why spend the money on the stupid cases? One day I took my kids to the USS Intrepid in New York City. We're climbing around the Intrepid. The Intrepid is a giant armored aircraft carrier from World War II. It's parked there. Awesome exhibits, by the way. They redid it. If you haven't been in like 20 years, go check it out. And at a certain time every hour, there's a kamikaze attack simulation in the middle of the ship. It's awesome. And I love the line at the end. And if you were standing where you are right now, you'd be dead. Anyway, it's pretty surreal. It's pretty well done since they retrofitted the thing. But what happens? I'm taking pictures of my little kids, climbing up on all the anti-aircraft guns and all that. And stupid Ari Hoffman loses his grip on his cell phone, and it face plants on the armored deck of the USS Intrepid, and there goes my cell phone. Now, it still kind of functioned, but I needed it, flights and all that stuff. I needed my smartphone. You better bet after that, I got the strongest case I could find, and I always do. And now, whenever I have to trade my phones in, they always are immaculate because they never leave those cases. It is rare they ever leave the cases are disgusting. But the phone itself, amazing, hardy, in good shape because I take care of them. But this is a long way to say, when was the last time something that bad went wrong with your cell phone if you do the right things? And you're telling me the mayor, the police chief, the fire chief, all their staff, and the governor, and all his staff, and God knows who else, all their cell phones went bad at the same time? What, you all buy Dell products and they were all at the exact date of their warranty? Come on, guys. Can we be real about this? So Karen Bass goes, they got away with it. I can get away with it too. So you know what I think you should do, California friends who are listening to this show? File a FOIA or whatever request you have in California and ask for Gavin Newsom's texts. And then ask for whoever is in charge of the county and ask for the city council members' texts and emails. And if all those are missing too, ask for the fire chief, ask for the police chief, ask for anybody who may have been connected to this. You know what else you could do? Ask for the information of who they were talking to in the White House. Go the other ways to get this information. And you'll probably find out the exact same thing that we found out in Seattle. When we come back, my friends, University of Washington manages to make its way onto another terrible list. We'll have the details for you when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Democrats do love their snitch lines here in Washington, don't they? So we had the snitch line if you were violating COVID, which you're truly ended up on multiple times. Oh, by the way, you know my favorite is when you call these snitch lines, it's subject to public disclosure. So you know what I did? Because I was bored during COVID, I filed a this is where I learned to do public disclosure requests, by the way. I filed a public disclosure request for all the people that reported my business during COVID. And you know who they all were? People who didn't like my politics, people who were competitors of my business, and people who didn't like me. That's who was reporting me during COVID. Democrats love their snitch lines, like the new hate crime snitch line, right? Oh, the hate crime hotline. I don't like that guy. He's wearing a MAGA hat. Arrest him. Arrest him. Ari Hoffman towed an RV to a council member's house. Arrest him. Arrest him. What else can we come up with here? That's what's going to be the hate crime hotline. Well, now, Senate Bill 5179, which cleared the Washington State Senate on Monday, is now going to have people, students, parents, community members, report schools for willful noncompliance with state education laws. You know what that means, my friends in Eastern Washington? Do you remember a certain guy named Creepy Chris Rakedal who during COVID threatened your schools if you didn't want to do the masking stuff, if you didn't want to do the COVID insanity, if you wanted to open and he didn't want you open, he threatened your funding. Do you remember? He threatened your Wait a minute. Hang on a second here. Democrats. Oh, wait. Yes, they do. So now Donald Trump is saying, if you keep teaching DEI, which is racist, which is bigoted, and doesn't help the education at all, as we say all the time, name for me one school where the education got better after instituting DEI, you can't. So what this means is basically they're saying, well, if a school's not teaching DEI, rat them out to us. That's what they want you to do. That is exactly what they want you to do. So, my friends, when this thing goes live, if Bob Ferguson signs it into law, you know what we're all going to do? I'm going to give out that number daily. And just like the hate crimes hotline, we're going to call it daily. And we're going to file complaints. And that'll be so much fun. We're going to mess with this line. And we're going to be like, Seattle Public Schools isn't teaching DEI. Seattle Public Schools, you have to investigate them. We're going to make them chase their tails. That's what we're going to. The OSPI isn't teaching DEI. Chris Rakedal himself. We'll come up with more clever things. We'll come up with things to do. But this is insane. This is absolutely insane. Meanwhile, some sanity is returning. Nature is healing, or at least the force of nature, Donald Trump is making it heal. So yesterday, we found out towards the end of the show that the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights sent letters to 60 institutions of higher education, including many Ivy League schools, warning them of potential enforcement actions if they do not fulfill their obligations under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act to protect Jewish students on campus, including uninterrupted access to campus facilities and educational opportunities. By the way, 4 local colleges are on this list. I was kind of surprised Western Washington University didn't make the list. But the one that made the list in a big, big way was our very own University of Washington. So, spokesperson told us the University of Washington stands firmly against anti-Semitism and agreed with the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights earlier this year to 5 actions that will strengthen the UW's commitment to timely and effective responses to complaints filed by students, faculty, and staff. Can we back up a second here and just revisit all this for a second? The University of Washington, Mike, I think there was a time there where we had a story daily on the University of Washington because they were violating so much of this insanity. I think it was daily we had stories on that after October 7th. Yeah, sure, you guys stand firm against anti-Semitism. Give me a break. Earlier this year, what they did was, it was last year, right before Donald Trump got into office, the University of Washington and a whole bunch of other schools settled their Title VI complaints with the Biden's Department of Education so they wouldn't get busted by Trump. The problem is there was no real punishment. There were no real penalties. They got away with it, is what happened. And then what they did was they said, okay, here's the 5 things we're going to do to be better in the future. They're all things they were supposed to be doing already. None of them were new at all. Last year, University of Washington received the dubious distinction of being one of the most anti-Jewish colleges in the U.S. for failing to address rising anti-Semitism on campus, which erupted in the wake of the October 7th attacks. Now, yesterday, this is a fun one. I know how you all feel about the ADL. I know. Believe me, I hate the ADL more than you guys do, probably. I've interacted with them personally. But even the lefty group, the ADL, gave UW a D in a report card evaluating 135 U.S. schools over the handling of anti-Semitism on campus. The report noted that the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights opened a Title VI investigation into UW, and also the Louis D. Brandeis Center for Human Rights, under law, filed a Title VI complaint against the school. By the way, not just those two organizations, but lots of students did as well. The report called out the university for inadequately addressing anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist graffiti on campus, efforts to divest from Israel, and a violent Gaza encampment in the Quad. It also noted that a September 2024 meeting of the UW Board of Regents was disrupted by masked protesters wrapped in keffiyehs who were interrupting Jewish speakers talking about anti-Semitism. They also mentioned that the university president's house was vandalized. And now you're going to hear an unpopular take from me. You know how we're doing all these civil rights violations and all these hate crimes and everything else? Why can't we just prosecute a crime? For me, I find that every time the hate crime aspect is attached to the thing, nothing ever gets charged. Nobody ever gets charged because it's so hard to prove intent and motivation in the hate crimes. It's always, oh, well, they drew a swastika, but they also wrote Trump sucks. So they're not really Nazis. They just think Trump's a Nazi. That's political speak. So then we're not going to press the hate crime charges. Here's what it should be. You vandalize the campus. You pay for it, and you're expelled. You targeted your fellow students. I don't care what race. I don't care what religion. You're penalized, and you're expelled. You targeted the president's house and vandalized it. I don't care who you are. You're arrested and expelled. I don't care what you wrote on it. It's still vandalism. It's still a crime. The problem is we get bogged down in all this hate crime nonsense, and afterwards, nobody's charged with a crime. Want an example? You remember Islander Middle School that got vandalized last month? Islander Middle School, just a couple months ago. And then they had the pictures of the two stupid teenagers that did it. No charges, no nothing. You know why? Because they're minors with no previous records, then guess what? They're eligible for deferral treatment. And I'm not saying you have to throw the book at every teenager, which means they're going to make them sit and talk to the Holocaust Center for a while. Don't give them ideas. Don't do that. But here's the thing, my friends. If they were sentenced under the hate crimes legislation, they would also be deferred for alternate treatment, which means they'd still have to sit and talk to the hate crime stuff, and it may not even stick that way. The problem is we don't make them fix their wrongs. What they should do is pay back for the damages they did. That's what they should do. That's a real punishment. And they're dumb kids. They're first-time offenders. I'm not saying they have to spend the next 5 years in jail, but they should pay back what they damaged. The problem here is we don't prosecute crime all the time. It should be, you vandalize something, you pay for it. You're sentenced appropriately for that. But because we get so hung up in the hate crimes legislation or anything else, that's usually the first thing that gets dropped, and then the rest of the case gets dropped too. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Linwood has a new city council member, and the person's biography and online posts are disturbing. You might want to hide the kitties for this one. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder that you should be heading on over to KVI.com right now because over half the tickets are gone for our exclusive screening of Warfare. We get to see it a month early with Big Mike and Young Zach. Head on over to KVI.com right now and sign up for your free tickets before they are gone. Get to see Warfare, this awesome movie that looks incredible about what happened during the Iraq War. You get to see it in theaters a month before it comes out. Another KVI exclusive, my friends. Well, this story, I'm going to tell you to earmuff the kids. If they're in the car with you, this is NSW. I shouldn't even try.
One more time.
Not suitable for kids.
There you go.
NSFK. Not suitable for kids. We have not suitable for work. This is not suitable for kids. So, Linwood City Council. Linwood City Council, according to the Linwood Times, who broke this story, appointed Jessica Ann Roberts to fill the position 5 vacancy left by Julietta Crosby. Now, the Linwood Times did some digging, and they discovered that this new council member has an OnlyFans page, and that Jessica isn't actually a biological female. Use your imagination, okay? Fine. They picked the person because they're trans. I don't know what their political experience is, but thanks to the Linwood Times, I now have images seared in my mind about what their OnlyFans experience is like. And this is not something you can get out of your mind. If you don't know what OnlyFans is, do not Google it. You will change your search algorithms forever. Now, I want to ask something to the men in our audience for a minute here. Gentlemen, have any of you ever said to a woman, I want you to be my breeding pet? Or anything of that nature? Is that the pickup line you use? Hey, hi there. Would you like to be my breeding pet? Well, apparently, that is what the kind of stuff this person is posting on a Reddit thread, according to the Linwood Times. This is disturbing. Disturbing stuff. If it's actually Linwood Council member Jessica Ann Roberts' profile, there is disturbing stuff on here, but wait a minute, I thought you're a lady. So that means you got the work done up top and not down below. That means you got the body kit, but it doesn't really do much to the car. Is that what we're talking about here? This is very disturbing stuff, and we're going to send some requests for comment to the council on why they thought the OnlyFans model, which is basically the new porn site, was a person they really wanted on the council. Is this the person who was best for the job? Or did they just get the job because, I don't know, because they checked a certain box? We're going to reach out to the Linwood City Council who made the decision to put this person on and find out exactly what the decision was here, because there is so much here that I do not feel comfortable reading on air. There is so much here that is disturbing. There is so much here that it just violates good sense. But here's something else. So you're a woman, but you want to get a woman pregnant, which seems to be the theme of all these posts. I have many, many questions. Then why are you identifying as a woman? Or maybe you're just a person with serious mental health issues that need to be addressed. And rather than addressing them, society is indulging you in how you identify. This is messed up stuff, really messed up. And this is something else. When you start Googling your city council member because you want to write your city councilor and complain about something, you're going to find this stuff. Don't do that. Do not start searching for this stuff, or it'll be seared in your mind the way it is now in mine. But without outlets like the Linwood Times, we never would have seen stuff like this. There's no description of the political experience. If somebody sees the political experience, send it my way. But you've got all this baggage here. Did none of you Google this person before you decide to put them on the council? Did nobody think that might be a good idea before trusting them with a city's budget, with a city's safety? Just a thought. You might want to do that in the future. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, are we on the cusp of a ceasefire or a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine? All signs are pointing that way, but we've been fooled before. We'll have the latest details for you when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and Cyndi Lauper tickets. But before we get to any of that, I'm going to start calling Zelensky Lucy. That's his new name, Lucy. You go, why are you calling him Lucy? Anybody here see the Peanuts cartoon? Charlie Brown, Snoopy? What happens? Lucy sets up the football. And then Charlie Brown comes along and goes to kick the football. And then she pulls it away at the last second, and Charlie Brown falls on his butt. And time after time, Charlie Brown says to Lucy, Lucy, you're going to hold it this time and not pull away the football? And every time she says, yeah. And then what happens? Charlie Brown goes to kick the ball and falls on his butt. We've all seen it before, right? Peanuts, Christmas, all that. We all know what I'm talking about. Great. Well, apparently Zelensky sent an apology note to the White House. Now, according to the Post Millennial, he apologized to U.S. President Donald Trump after their explosive Oval Office meeting. Steve Witkoff said on Monday that Zelensky sent a letter to the president. He apologized for the whole incident that happened in the Oval Office. I think it was an important step. There's been a lot of discussion between our teams and the Ukrainians and the Europeans who are relevant to this discussion as well. It was previously revealed by Trump last week that he received a letter from Zelensky, though he made no mention of an apology. So then, let's not forget what happened. Trump cut off aid to Ukraine, cut off intelligence to Ukraine, and it looks like now they're back at the negotiating table. Now, Marco Rubio made this announcement today. Give a listen.
Today, we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. I want to personally we both want to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Majesty, for hosting us, for making this possible. They've been instrumental in this process, and we're very grateful to them for hosting us here today. And hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians. And we hope that they'll say yes, to peace. The ball is now in their court. And but again, the president's objective here is, number one, above everything else, he wants the war to end. And I think today Ukraine has taken a concrete step in that regard. We hope the Russians will reciprocate.
I love Marco Rubio. I do. That is a man who sounds like he's in charge. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I just worry that he might be Charlie Brown. Because how many times so far has Zelensky said, yes, we're going to do this, and then doesn't do it? That's what I'm worried about. By the way, Zelensky's sounding more and more like Borat, and I do a terrible Borat impression. The longer this goes on for, it's my wife. Yes, he sounds more and more like Borat the longer this war drags on for. The whole time in the Oval Office, that's all I was thinking. I'm like, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio are talking to Borat. My God, we're watching like the third movie right now, even though the second one wasn't that good. That's what it sounded like the entire time. So, yeah, exactly. That guy. See? That's Zelensky. We're just calling him Zelensky from now on. May have to do what we do. May have to rip a few more lines that he had in that movie. Not throw the Jew down the well. Let's not do that one. But we may have to find a few other things from that movie and use them. Anyway, Mike Waltz, our new national security advisor, actually said something that shows that things are going in the right direction. And it's a narrative change. Give a listen.
Just think about it. We've gone from if the war is going to end to now how the war is going to end, and this was an important first step, and that was under President Trump's leadership. He has literally moved the entire global conversation to where we had a very senior Ukrainian delegation with us today. We've had engagements with our Russian counterparts, and now it's how the war is going to end, and that's under President Trump's leadership.
By the way, that's a very, very important distinction. What did we hear from Zelensky since the Oval Office meeting, in the Oval Office meeting? I don't know when the war is going to end. My wife. It's going to last forever. I don't know when it's going to end. We need to keep fighting.
My wife.
Exactly. You know, when people find out I'm a talk radio host who don't know who I am, and the friends who do know who I am, they always say, what's the deal with Ukraine? Why haven't we ended that yet? And I always say the same thing. What's the ending? We've been talking about this since the Oval Office blew up. What's the end game for Ukraine? Now they're talking about how the war ends. Zelensky's expectations were unrealistic, and I don't even know what they were. Is it take back Crimea? Is it take back Donbass? Is it overthrow Putin? Nobody has said what that actually is. But now it seems like the conversation's going in the right direction. How does the war end? Not when does the war end. How does the war end? This is an important change. Here's what President Trump said today as well on this matter.
But very importantly, and I said it, Ukraine, ceasefire. Ukraine, ceasefire. Just agreed to a little while ago. Now we have to go to Russia, and hopefully President Putin will agree to that also, and we can get this show on the road. We can get this horrible war where 2,000-3,000 soldiers a week, every week, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 sometimes. I get the reports, and they're not American soldiers. They're Ukrainian and they're Russian. But people are being killed outside of that. People are being killed in the cities as things explode throughout the cities. And we want to get that war over with. So I think it's a very big, I think it's a big difference between the last visit you saw at the Oval Office and this. So that's a total ceasefire. Ukraine has agreed to it, and hopefully Russia will agree to it. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to wipe out a deal. But I think the ceasefire is very important. If we can get Russia to do it, that'll be great. If we can't, we just keep going on, and people are going to get killed. Lots of people.
Now, by the way, now you've gotten Zelensky on board in theory with your plan, and that's been an issue this whole time. Now you got to get Putin. And you know what Donald Trump now gets to say to Putin? I threw the guy out of the White House. I tried to make peace with him. I want peace. I threatened to cut off his intelligence. I threatened to cut off his military. I did both. Now, Vladimir, if you don't stop this and shut this down, you know what we're going to do? We've been talking to all our European partners, and we've been talking to Zelensky. We're going to give him everything he needs, not just to hold the line, but destroy you. You like your job there, Vlad? That's what Donald Trump gets to say. Nicely, because he's good at that. But he gets to say, velvet glove, iron fist. Which one do you want? Carrot and stick approach, and that's your off-ramp. It'll be, Vladimir, what do you want to stop this? And he'll say, I want to keep Donbass, I want to keep Crimea. And then Donald Trump goes, okay, I don't really want to get into a war with you, but I don't want you taking Kyiv. So we're going to put these U.S. workers, these U.S. contractors here to take out these minerals and take out these oils. And if you set one foot in there, we're coming after you. And in the meantime, we're going to rearm Ukraine. So they have everything to stop you from coming after them. That's what this looks like. And if you don't take our deal, Vlad, then Europe is going to come fight with Ukraine, and we're going to arm all of them. That's how you end this conflict. And we don't just keep throwing billions and billions of dollars, not knowing what the end game actually is. I joke. Donald Trump did what I do when I'm shopping in Israel. Now, for those of you who are used to shopping in America and may not have been outside the Western world, prices are negotiable, my friends. There may be little price tags on stuff, but everything's negotiable. And you know the best tactic when you're negotiating? Maybe some of you have done this over a car. You walk out. And then what happens? They chase after you. The only thing in American society we get to negotiate over is a car and a house, right? That's it. You can walk away. Now, in this real estate market, I'm not sure you can. And with the cars, you still can. You could say, you know what? It's just too high for me. Thank you very much for your time. I'm done. But imagine being able to do that with everything. That's literally what they did. That's literally what Donald Trump did. Meanwhile, it looks like the other winds are going through. We got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
On Tuesday, the continuing resolution spending bill backed by President Donald Trump passed with a vote of 217 to 213. The bill, which has been labeled partisan by Democrats, will fund the government until September 30th, 2025. The GOP advanced the bill and needed overwhelming support in order to pass it. The one GOP vote that was opposed was Representative Thomas Massie. The media tried to make a bigger deal out of Massie than there was because they love to sow the whole, oh, there's fighting in the Republican Party. And what I'm worried about is distractions for Donald Trump. When you keep Donald Trump focused, when you keep President Trump laser focused on an issue, it gets solved. When you get bogged down in stupid, things get worse. So, for example, Massie says he's not voting for this thing. That is no surprise at all. Instead of lending him the weight of Donald Trump and the White House, they should have said, he always votes no. Some people you just can't please no matter what. The rest of the Republicans are voting for this thing, and it'll be great. It'll be wonderful. It'll be fantastic. That should have been the message. There shouldn't have been this whole comparing him to Liz Cheney, the back and forth, because the problem is the media loves that stuff, and they run with that stuff, and he's not budging. Now, you may like Thomas Massie, and you may think he makes a good point, but the problem was Massie took the bait. He took the bait from Donald Trump. He didn't have to fight back against Donald Trump, and then gave the media another story about Republicans in disarray. And you know that most people, all they do is see those headlines on their iPhone. That's it. So now you got 2 news cycles of this stupidity, where I barely heard about them passing the continuing resolution because all anybody's talking about in the lamestream media is Republicans in disarray. In a meeting on Tuesday morning, House Speaker Mike Johnson said, we have to keep the government in operation. It's a fundamental responsibility of ours. The vice president echoed that sentiment. It's very well received and very well delivered. Leading up to the vote, Tom Massie expressed his dissatisfaction with the level of spending, which we all agree with. We all agree with that, which is why you have to keep cutting and keep cutting and keep cutting and not do new spending. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. Unfortunately, we have a very, very, very slim majority. And we don't have a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. You got to work with what you got. Now, the Democrats are going to vote against this thing no matter what. Is it going to pass the Senate? Most likely. Is Donald Trump going to sign it? Yes. Because here's the problem with a shutdown. If a shutdown comes while the economy is tanking, you know what the stories are going to be the whole time? Republicans can't govern. Republicans can't govern. Donald Trump is supposed to be the ultimate deal maker. How come he couldn't make a deal? This is the issue. Now, meanwhile, Democrats go back to their usual talking points. Donald Trump's attacking Social Security. Donald Trump's attacking Medicaid and Medicare. I'm bored. I'm tired. Stop with this nonsense. We've heard all this nonsense time and time again. You want to hit him over the stock market? Fine. But the amount of fake news that's out there, my God. Give a listen to how Caroline Leavitt dealt with this stupid narrative today.
I want to ask about some comments Elon Musk made yesterday. He said that there is $500 to $700 billion in waste and fraud and entitlement spending. He called it, quote, the big one to eliminate. Earlier this month, he also referred to Social Security as a Ponzi scheme. Should Americans expect changes, big changes, to Social Security and Medicare?
President Trump has been unequivocally clear on this. He is going to protect Social Security and Medicare benefits and Medicaid for hardworking Americans who paid into these entitlement programs and deserve those hard-earned benefits. And unfortunately, the mainstream media has taken Mr. Musk out of context. I saw a Bloomberg headline that our team actually worked on getting updated and fixed because it was so wrong, and it took Mr. Musk out of context. What he was specifically referring to cutting was the waste and the fraud and abuse that does exist in these programs. According to an IG report from the Social Security Administration, there's more than $70 billion of fraud in the Social Security program alone that we know of. And so the president will continue to protect these programs for hard-working Americans, and actually cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse out of these programs will protect it for hardworking Americans.
Don't we all agree that going after waste, fraud, and abuse is a good thing? Let's assume for a second that the numbers are correct on the amount of people who are over 150 years old who are getting Social Security. Wouldn't you call that waste, fraud, and abuse? Shouldn't everybody want to cut it? It's funny because I've got these quotes here from Bill Clinton talking about cutting waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. It's funny because I've got these quotes here from Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and every Democrat that ever walked the earth wanting to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. They just don't want the other guy to be the one doing it, because then they march on Capitol Hill. We shall overcome. That's just what they do. Donald Trump has said repeatedly he doesn't want to cut benefits of Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. He wants to find the waste, fraud, and abuse. That message has not changed. Is there any clear-headed, normal-thinking American who doesn't think there's waste, fraud, and abuse? But media seems like they think it's their job to play defense for the Democrats because they know the Democrats aren't doing it. What are the Democrats doing? They're out there supporting Hamasniks who aren't U.S. citizens, getting mad that they're getting deported for supporting a terrorist organization. Caroline Leavitt. Oh, this is gold audio, by the way. This is gold standard audio. destroyed the AP for a question they asked today. Give a listen.
When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs.
Not
and
true.
I'm curious
He's not
for
doing
why
that.
he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people, and the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have.
That's
they
it.
don't get charged on foreign companies. They get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press. Mary.
Do you remember the AP ever asking a question like that of Karine Jean-Pierre or Jen Psaki when they were lying their you-know-what's off about the economy? Of course not. And by the way, media members, this isn't very smart to pick fights with the administration. You know why? Because oftentimes Donald Trump gets what he wants. He's really, really good at that. So what happens? This guy's all worried about tariffs, worried about a trade war with Canada. Remember Doug Ford said he's going to cut off utilities. He's going to tax utilities. Then Donald Trump says, okay, you know that lumber and steel you sell to the U.S.? We're going to tax that a gajillion %. Here was the result of that today.
Already Canada, and I respect very much. As you know, there's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And it would have been a very bad thing if he did. And he's not going to do that, so I respect that. But we were just informed that he's not going to do that.
He's not going to do that. So that sounds like it's the first step towards settling all this. Do you know why we need to settle all this? Here's Caroline Levitt explaining it really, really well.
Canada has been ripping off the United States of America and hardworking Americans for decades. If you look at the rates of tariffs across the board that Canadians have been imposing on the American people and our workers here, it is egregious. In fact, I have a handy-dandy chart here that shows not just Canada, but the rate of tariffs across the board. If you look at Canada, since you brought it up, American cheese and butter, nearly 300% tariff. You look at India, 150% tariff on American alcohol. You think that's helping Kentucky bourbon be exported into India? I don't think so. 100% tariff on agricultural products from India. Look at Japan, tariffing rice, 700%. President Trump believes in reciprocity, and it is about dang time that we have a president who actually looks out for the interests of American businesses and workers. And all he's asking for at the end of the day are fair and balanced trade practices, and unfortunately, Canada has not been treating us very fairly at all over the past several decades.
So where we're at right now is everybody needs to save face. Nobody wants to look like the loser. Canada doesn't want to look like it caved because now the Trudeau's out and that new guy, what's his name? Carmi, kind of never been elected to anything but somehow became Prime Minister of Canada, by the way. He wants to look like he has a win against Donald Trump, so this may take a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, we'll probably see a deal. That will calm down the stock markets, hopefully, when they see harmony, when they see peace returning, because that's what the stock markets want. They want clear sailing. They don't want rough seas. And my friends, you need to think about this because I'm holding my line right now and I'm not giving you financial advice over the phone, and I'm not doing financial advice over the radio. That's not what I do. That's an FCC violation also, by the way. But I'm saying is that hold the line. I say I am holding the line. And why? Because once we get through this, I think you're going to see a boom. And how do I know this? Because we saw rough waters like this during Ronald Reagan's presidency. And how'd that end up working out for everybody with the economy? Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, the latest insanity with the Belltown Hellcat and your calls. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just want to remind everybody, we are almost out of tickets for our exclusive screening of Warfare this Thursday at 7 p.m. with Big Mike and Young Zach. You get to see the movie that was written and directed by Iraq War veteran Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland, who are the guys behind Civil War and 28 Days Later, which embeds you with platoon of American Navy SEALs in the home of an Iraqi family overwatching the moment of U.S. forces through an insurgent territory. Now, you get to see this thing a month before the general public does. But before the show, we had already gotten rid of half the tickets we have. We probably sold more during the show because I've been mentioning this a lot. And I don't know if we're sold out yet or not, but if you want to join us this Thursday, you get to join Big Mike and Young Zach this Thursday. Head on over to KVI.com right now and RSVP if we still have tickets left. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Steve in Tacoma. Steve, what's up, man?
Ari, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm just peachy on this cloudy day. How are you?
I'm good. I got like two questions. I tried to get through yesterday because you were talking about it. So, number one, who is the U.S. Attorney for Washington State?
Well, they just fired them. I think right now it's whoever the assistant was, but to my knowledge, we haven't named one yet.
Well, good. So somebody needs to get a hold of whoever does that and get Pete Serrano in there. And because Nick Brown's suing whatever county that was for cooperating with ICE. I don't care who you are. The state law does not supersede federal law, and that's exactly what he's doing.
Exactly. And here's the thing. He's suing Adams County. That's what we found out yesterday, to keep the illegal immigrants in state. Now, by the way, I had a lot of time on my hands this morning, so I was sitting there going through every single one of these illegal immigrants, every single one that's been arrested for these horrible crimes since Trump took office. I want to know how many of them are on the voter rolls, given the fact that we found a few that have registered vehicles and had driver's license, which means they were automatically registered to vote. Don't you think that needs a federal investigation?
Yes, and that should be on Trump's radar, or whoever's in charge of that. Yeah, that should be, because that's voter fraud.
Well, Steve, here's what I recommend you do. My audience is listening to this right now. I'm going to tell them the same thing as I tell you. This White House is very responsive, by the way. So I recommend everybody go to whitehouse.gov. I don't know if they're still running that same awesome video that was running when they first took office. It was incredible. It was a landing page. Watch it and turn the volume up if you haven't seen it yet, if it's still there. If not, send them a very nice email that says, Mr. President, we really need a great U.S. attorney here in Western Washington, and we suggest whoever, if that's Pete Serrano or somebody else, but get all your friends to do it as well. Because as I have said all the time, I can't believe the conservative, the Republican in me, is begging for federal intervention, but that's where we're at, my friend. So that's what I recommend everybody do, and I'll make some inquiries to my friends at the White House and see if they have any answers for me as well, okay?
All right, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, because I don't follow attorneys too much because I don't like them.
I'll tell you is that every single member of my family, for the most part, is an attorney. I am the only one who is not. I did ace my pre-law classes in college, though. Yes, my father, very wise words he said to me. He said, all lawyers are, insert your expletive here, don't become one. That was direct advice from my father, the lawyer, by the way. Steve, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, are you feeling better today, my man? You didn't sound too good yesterday.
Yeah, I am. Number one, Alex Zimmerman has been banned from the Puget Sound Regional Council for 3 years. Amazing what he. So
what he do? What I don't even know. He did his usual shtick. That's all you got to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But it is getting close to the half hour on the mark. So got some news to break. I sat in on the Sound Transit virtual meeting. You're not going to believe this. 2 weeks to negotiate for Claudia Badass Ucci, Dave Summers, and Ryan Mello to negotiate with Candidate C for a CEO contract.
Okay.
I got to tell you, man, look, I'm a big Claudia Badass Ucci fan. I support Del Constantine for Sound Transit CEO. But this is having someone running to replace Dow and negotiate with Dow. If that's what and I'm just I'm just going into hypotheticals because I don't know who candidates.
Hang on a
is.
second. Let me interrupt you a second here, Joe. Let's back up a second, okay? You want Dow Constantine to run Sound Transit. I do not want Dow Constantine to run Sound Transit. However, I think there's one thing you and I are going to agree on as open government guys, which both of us are. Wouldn't you rather this process be public because it's our taxpayer dollars going towards it?
Yes, I would like to know who candidate C is. I'd like to know who all the candidates are. I'm sick and tired of the garbage that's being whammed down our throats that, we have to have confidentiality to have, candidates. That's garbage. These people work for the public. We have a right to know. I mean, after all, we should treat them like we treat pro athletes. We always know when a player wants to trade and they normally get one. I mean, look at DJ Metcalf.
So let me ask you another question here because you raise a good point, Joe. Let me ask you a question. When Sound Transit was originally created and the voters around here voted for Sound Transit, they voted for an unelected, unanswerable board. And many people were very concerned about that at the time. Knowing what you know now about the Sound Transit board and the shenanigans, would you have supported it fully then? Or would you have said, I really want an elected board. I really want more open government when it comes to Sound Transit before we give them these gajillions of dollars?
Ari, I would gladly get her signatures to make that board directly elected. There are too many potted plants on that board who need to go, and there are too many people who care who can't get on the board.
I agree. I agree.
I think having a directly elected board is going to bring, the BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit has this. As well as Denver, and I think a few other transits. And it's either that or a mayor's council where like TransLink BC, where you vote for mayor, that mayor is on the transit board.
Yeah.
And I think that might also be a solution if we cannot get through directly elected for whatever reason, because this is I believe in Dow. I think Dow is the right person because he's got the institutional memory, and I want to keep him around.
Wait. Hang on. You think this has all been run well? I don't want this guy anywhere near this thing for $600,000, especially after he placed all his buddies in there to try to give him a $600,000 a year salary.
No. You need to let me finish. There's one last thing.
Last thing that I got to
rather that Dow was elected to the board instead of the CEO, but this is what we got. We have to keep Dow around. We've lost too much institutional memory of what ST Free is. The board members were right when they said they wanted to complete the spine. They wanted a candidate who could do that, deal with choppy waters. So that's why I'm so convinced candidate C is likely Dow Constantine.
Well, I'll tell you something here, Joe. I love you to pieces, but I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one because it's even crazier when me and the far left are all agreeing that this is not the guy who should be on the board. But, Joe, always appreciate when you call. Glad to hear you're feeling better, my friend. Do you want to be part of the show? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, Belltown Hellcat is back in the news. What did he do now? And is he actually going to be sentenced this time? You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and Cyndi Lauper tickets. Yeah, another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Doug and Roy. Doug, what's up?
Hey, yeah, I heard you all talking about Sound Transit, and I called you up here several weeks ago and mentioned Sound Transit is one of my biggest pet peeves there is. I consider them organized crime and some.
As do I. Wait, are you telling me you don't want to be taxed for a train you'll never use in Roy, Washington?
Yeah, well, the damn thing, I live in Roy. Now, I used to live in Spanaway, and I got stuck with all the tax. We still pay for the taxes on Sound Transit, one way or another, and we voted against that by like a 3-1 margin. They asked us to vote for it, and we voted against Sound Transit in Pierce County by a 3-1 margin. Yet we still got stuck with it.
Wait, you mean like with our car tabs, where we voted to have $30 car tabs, and yet the Washington State Supreme Court said, how about no? And then stuck us with hundreds of dollars. And by the way, the only math system where your car appreciates in value over time rather than depreciates in value over the time, it's insane.
It is insane, and it's wrong.
Yeah.
They took our voting rights away from us, in essence.
Exactly, because when we vote on things and then they overturn it, what was the point of even having the vote? Doug, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, my friends, it looks like the Belltown Hellcat is back in trouble. Why? Apparently he was sharing images he should not have been on social media, and as a result, he has now pled guilty and is in legal hot water. My question is, what happens to the car? Do we know what happens to the car? He bought the car. I know his mom had it for a little while. It was sitting in a garage for a little while. What happened to the car? Now, clearly it's not me, because Mike knows I had some muffler work done on my Charger, and it's loud, but it's not as loud as it used to be. It doesn't sound like gunshots are going down the street anymore, the way that the Belltown Hellcat one is. But he pleaded guilty to disclosing intimate images of his ex-girlfriend in Seattle court. He's now banned from owning any firearms, had a 5-year domestic violence no contact order imposed against him. Question is this all punishment for what he did in the vehicle itself? I have many questions about this. I mean, you never should have done what he did to his girlfriend. Don't get me wrong, but it seems like they really got it out for this guy. Now, mind you, openly flaunting the law makes everybody look stupid, and I assume that's probably why they're going to throw the book at this guy. But then again, it's Seattle. I've been surprised before. Now, I did notice, by the way, we don't know what happened to the Belltown Hellcat, but my friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, they do have a Challenger RT on the lot. They do have that right now. You can go check it out over there at their website. Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. You can go check it out right now. They do have a Challenger. It looks like they sold the Charger that was exactly like mine that was sitting on their floor for a little while. Meanwhile, other crazy stories we got happening around here involving crime. 17-year-old boy who has been linked to a string of at least 10 dangerous armed robberies was arrested by officers on Thursday. Police said each of the robberies at gas stations, stores, or pizza shops, a gun was pulled, clerks were threatened, and cash, merchandise, or tobacco products were stolen. In a February 21st robbery at a pizza shop near 18th Avenue South, according to Como News in South Jackson Street, the suspect grabbed a clerk by his uniform, held a gun to his stomach, and ordered him to hand over cash from the till. Let me ask you a question. Would any of the gun laws they are passing in Olympia right now have stopped this? A single one. Would a single one of them have stopped this? Any? Yes? No? Of course not. No, they wouldn't. 17-year-olds are not allowed to possess a gun. I assume it was an illegal weapon, even though it doesn't say so in the story, because otherwise a 17-year-old would not have it. Not one. So, this is a thing where I'm asking you what exactly they are accomplishing in the legislature right now. Oh, right. In addition to the gun stuff, they are also saying, hey, you know what? We want to reduce sentences on people like this. You think it's going to make the streets safer or less safe? What do you think? Give us a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take another call from Doug and Roy. Doug, what's going on?
Oh yeah, Ori, I didn't get to finish up my last of my little bit of yelling.
What's on your mind? I only got a minute, buddy.
Okay, well, I on the Sound Transit thing, when we lost our voting rights, I wrote letters and I talked and tried to get a hold of Turd Ferguson, who was our Attorney General at the time, and I never could get back why he wouldn't support us and our voting rights and protect our voting rights on the Sound Transit issue.
You think he's going to support our voting rights when he wants to keep his job? The only way that guy becomes governor is if there's shady things going on.
Yeah, in Pierce County, we voted against it, and he thumbed his nose at us.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. This is what he did. Don't forget, it was him who challenged the initiative to keep our $30 car tabs. That was our own Turd Ferguson. Doug, appreciate the call. Appreciate the call back. Appreciate you being part of the show. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card and Cyndi Lauper tickets. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And just a reminder before we get to our good news headlines and our good news giveaway, my friends, before we started the show today, we had already sold half of the tickets to the exclusive screening of Warfare this Thursday at 7 p.m. at AMC South Center with Big Mike and Young Zach. Written and directed by Iraq War veteran Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland, the guys behind Civil War, and 28 Days Later, Warfare embeds audiences with a platoon of American Navy SEALs in the home of an Iraqi family overwatching the moment U.S. forces through insurgent territory. A visceral, boots-on-the-ground story of modern warfare told like never before in real time and based on the memory of the people who lived it. Now, Warfare comes out in April. You get to see it a month early. If you head on over to KVI.com, and there are still tickets left because I'm worried they might be sold out, head on over to KVI.com right now and sign up for our exclusive screening of Warfare. You're going to have a lot of fun with Big Mike and Young Zach. And as I said earlier in the show, half the fun is watching Big Mike during a movie. And after watching Novocaine with him last night, I could tell you that is half the fun of going to any movie. So head on over to KVI.com right now, sign up, and hope there's a few tickets left so you can grab them.
You know, I'll for the folks listening on the radio, I'll give them a preview of what it's like to watch the movie with me. We'll, gonna watch the movie very quietly. Something like that.
Yeah,
There's
something like that. Something like that.
Man.
Yes, something like that.
That guy's super dead. Oh, my God.
If you like Mystery Science Theater 3000, you get a live version of it with Mike Seibert right there.
I'm not that bad.
No,
but,
you're not.
But bad adjacent. Yes, I can be occasionally insufferable.
I enjoy it. It's half my fun when I'm there. Anyway, in some other good news, on Sunday night, you may have noticed that the Great Wheel in Seattle was not multicolored. It was all orange. And this was an amazing thing to me. The Great Wheel of Seattle intentionally lit up for the Bibas family, the family that was tragically kidnapped and killed by Hamas terrorists, where they killed the 4-year-old boy and the 10-month-old boy. The Seattle Wheel was approached and was asked, hey, can you light up for the Bibas family? Because they've been doing this with tourist attractions and they've been doing this with landmarks all over the world. And they asked the Seattle Wheel. Now, I know that after the October 7th attacks, they asked many, many landmarks around here to light up in blue and white for Israel, which I know they did. They do that for Ukraine. They do that when the Mariners win. They do that for whatever. And, we've seen that before, but there are certain landmarks that continue to refuse to do this. Now, I don't know if the Seattle Space Needle was approached about this. I'm going to have to ask about it. But it was really, really nice that the Seattle Wheel did this. And for me, the Seattle Wheel is a tourist attraction, and yet I've been there 3 or 4 times. So one thing that they do, they've got the fish restaurant down there. I don't remember which fish restaurant's down, but there's a fish restaurant. And certain cars in the Great Wheel you can book for dinner. And every time you come around, they bring you a course. Now, we couldn't do that, but I thought it was a clever idea because I keep kosher, and I don't even know which restaurant's down there. So what did I do? I got takeout, and I brought it for me and the wife. And we just stayed in there and ate our food as the thing went round and round and round. Had a good time. I love the Seattle Great Wheel. I really do. I think it's a great attraction. Also, how the hell did they get that thing built so quickly? I think it is a great addition to Seattle, not just because they've lit up the thing. I've always liked the Great Wheel. I think it's great. I think it's touristy. And if you want to be a tourist in your own city because you can't afford to go on vacation this year because the economy hasn't turned around yet, the Great Wheel is a lot of fun, and I recommend you go down there. Also, big thank you to the Great Wheel in Seattle for doing something like this. It was appreciated, and I know how much it meant to the Jewish community. I know how much it meant to the pro-Israel community. Really, really nice of you guys. And if any of you are listening, there's an email in your inbox because I want to have you on the show to thank you about it and give you a little bit more free PR. So could somebody get back to me about that, please? Check your inbox. I realize there's one sitting there from Ari Hoffman. I'm kind of a big deal, right? Get back to me. Get some free PR. It's worth your time. I'm even nice to the Space Needle people when we have them on the show because they're like right over there. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. Mike, it's not Daniel's Broiler that's down there, is it? It's not no, it's not that one. Okay, I was just curious. Also, we're giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and the bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement. Excuse me, totally lost my train of thought thinking about the Daniels broiler there. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life. For 30-plus years from Brian Evans and Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit MadronaFinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we're giving away two tickets to Cyndi Lauper at the White River Amphitheater on August 19th. Get your tickets Friday at Ticketmaster.com, so this is your chance to win them before they go on sale. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and two tickets to Cyndi Lauper at the White River Amphitheater on August 19th. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, that's going to do it for me today, my friends. But I'm heading on over to the East Side Republican Club to see everybody. You can catch me there at the Redmond Garden Inn. We'll see you tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.